Welcome to Health Insights. Today, we're talking about chest pain, a symptom that can be scary, but isn't always life-threatening. We'll explore its causes, warning signs, and when to seek help. Stay tuned for valuable tips to better understand and manage this important health issue.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be diving into the world of chest pain.
Ooh.
A topic that, let's be real, can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know you sent us in some material on this, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into all of it.
Okay.
Especially this podcast script that you found called Understanding Chest Pain.
Sounds intriguing.
It is super interesting, and by the end of this, you're going to be like a chest pain pro.
Awesome.
But one of the things that I found most fascinating was that chest pain, get this, isn't always about the heart.
Oh, that's interesting. That's not what you typically think of, right?
No, not at all.
When you hear chest pain, you immediately think,
Heart attack.
yeah, heart attack, cardiac arrest, something like that.
Exactly. So to decode all of this, we've got our expert with us today.
Happy to be here.
What are your initial thoughts on all of this? I mean, it's kind of reassuring in a way, right?
Yeah.
To know that not every twinge in your chest means you're,
Yeah.
on death's door.
I think it's definitely reassuring, and I think it's important for people to know that chest pain can be caused by a variety of different things.
Okay, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm.
But it also makes it a little trickier, right? I mean, how do we know when it's something to really worry about? How do you even start to figure out what's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first, we need to define what we even mean by chest pain, because it's actually a much broader term than people might realize.
Okay, so it's not always like that classic, clutching your chest Hollywood heart attack scene.
Exactly. We're talking about any discomfort or pain that you feel in your chest area.
Gotcha.
So that could be a sharp stabbing pain, a dull ache, a burning sensation, you name it.
So really, anything from a little twinge to a crushing feeling, it all falls under the chest pain umbrella.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Well, the script actually had some really good examples of what can cause chest pain that's not related to the heart. For instance, it could be something going on with your lungs like pneumonia, or even something called a pulmonary embolism, which I'd never even heard of before.
Yeah, a pulmonary embolism can be really serious.
Okay, so lung issues, that
Okay.
makes sense. I remember that from the script. But a blood clot in the lungs, I mean, that just sounds terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be.
So what is that exactly?
So basically, a blood clot forms somewhere else in the body,
Okay.
and it travels to the lungs where it blocks blood flow. And this can cause chest pain, shortness of breath, even coughing up blood sometimes.
Wow. Okay. Definitely adding pulmonary embolism to my list of things to ask my doctor about at my next checkup.
Good idea. It's
Yeah.
always better to be informed.
So we've got lungs on the list of potential culprits. What else can cause chest pain that's not heart related?
Well, remember how we said chest pain is a pretty broad term? It can even include things like heartburn and an acid reflux.
Oh, right. Which a lot of people describe as a burning sensation. Right?
Exactly. And believe it or not, even something as simple as a pulled muscle from working out too hard.
Wait, really? So that soreness I felt after my last gym session, that could have been chest pain and not just muscle soreness.
It's possible. It depends on the specific location and type of pain. But yeah, it just goes to show that chest pain can be caused by a surprising variety of things.
Okay, this is making me feel a little bit better knowing it's not always an emergency. But at the same time, it's almost more nerve-wracking because now I'm like, wait, how do I know when it's serious? When should I actually be calling 911?
I totally get that. And you're right. It's that uncertainty that can be so unsettling. But there are definitely some red flags to watch out for.
Okay, good. Tell me what to look for.
So if you experience any of these things along with chest pain, it's absolutely crucial to seek immediate medical attention. Things like shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, or pain that spreads to your arms, back, or jaw.
I feel like I've heard that list before.
Yeah, the script actually highlighted those as classic warning signs.
Oh, right. And they kind of made it sound pretty dramatic.
Yeah, well, and for good reason. Those are often signs of a heart attack.
Right.
And in those situations, every second counts.
So those are the big ones. But what about the less obvious signs? The stuff that maybe doesn't scream emergency, but could still be a sign that something's not quite right.
That's where things get a little trickier, and honestly, that's why it's always best to talk to your doctor about any chest pain you're experiencing.
Okay, so better safe than sorry.
Always. They can help figure out if it's something that needs further investigation or if it can be managed with some lifestyle changes.
That makes sense. But before we jump into all that, you mentioned earlier that women can experience heart attacks differently than men. The script touched on that briefly, but didn't really explain why.
Right. Yeah, and it's an important point. For a lot of different reasons, women often don't experience that classic crushing chest pain that you typically associate with a heart attack. They might feel more of a pressure, tightness, or even what feels like indigestion.
Oh, wow. See, and that's what's scary. Because you might just brush it off as heartburn or something. Right?
Exactly. And that can lead to delays in diagnosis and treatment, which is why it's so important for women to be aware of these differences.
Okay, so message received loud and clear. Any kind of chest discomfort, ladies, don't just ignore it. Get it checked out.
Exactly. You know your body best. And if something feels off, it's always better to err on the side of caution.
All right, I'm definitely seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
When it comes to chest pain, ignoring it is never the answer. But I have to ask, because this is me. Is it possible that just worrying about chest pain could actually cause chest pain?
You know, that's actually a really interesting question.
Right, because I feel like I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac.
And it turns out that, yeah, it is possible.
Oh, no.
Yeah. When we get stressed, our muscles tense up, and that includes the muscles in our chest.
Right.
So that tension can actually mimic the feeling of heart-related chest pain, even if your heart is perfectly healthy.
So I could be stressing myself out about having chest pain, which then gives me chest pain.
Pretty much.
That's both hilarious and terrifying.
It's a bit of a vicious cycle.
It is.
But the good news is that once you understand that connection, you can kind of break free from it.
Right.
So if you're aware that your chest pain is likely stress-related, you can start to use some stress management techniques to help alleviate it.
Okay, so knowledge really is power in this case.
Definitely.
Knowing what's going on can actually help us feel less anxious and even help prevent the chest pain in the first place.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, so besides being aware of those warning signs and managing stress, what else can we do to stay ahead of this whole chest pain thing?
Well, something that the script highlighted that I found really powerful was the idea of listening to your body.
Okay.
I know it sounds super simple, but in our busy lives, we often just tune out those subtle signals that our bodies are sending us.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. I mean, just constantly rushing from one thing to the next, barely have time to, breathe, let alone.
You know, check in with myself.
True. And that's where the idea of keeping a symptom journal can be really helpful.
A symptom journal.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of things would I be tracking in that?
Yeah. That's a great question. And that's actually a perfect segue into talking about what kind of questions you should be asking your doctor.
Ooh, okay, perfect. Because, you've already done some of the research.
Right.
You've got a doctor's appointment coming up, so let's jump into that and talk about how to really prepare for that visit.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
So it sounds like you're actually going to the doctor to talk about this chest pain.
Yeah.
That's great. It's always a good idea to get a professional opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Better safe than sorry, like we were saying.
Right.
But I gotta admit, I get a little nervous going to the doctor.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm overreacting or, wasting their time.
Yeah, I totally get that.
So, how do I make sure I'm prepared? How do I explain what's going on in a way that, they'll take me seriously? Well, first of all, remember that doctors are there to help you.
Right.
And chest pain is definitely a legitimate concern, no matter how mild it might seem.
Okay, that's good to hear.
The key is to be prepared to give them the information they need to make an accurate diagnosis.
Okay, so what kind of information? What should I be thinking about beforehand?
So, first and foremost, be ready to describe the pain in as much detail as possible.
Okay.
What does it feel like? Is it sharp, stabbing, burning, aching? Try to be really specific with the words you use.
Oh, like a chest pain vocabulary lesson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also, where is the pain located? Is it centered in your chest? Does it move around? Does it radiate to other areas?
Okay, so location, quality of the pain.
Yeah, and think about when the pain happens.
Okay.
Is it constant or does it come and go? Does it happen at certain times of day or after certain activities, like maybe after meals or during exercise?
Oh, right, because like we were saying, that could be a clue, right?
Exactly. Those patterns can be super helpful.
Okay, so track the timing.
Yeah. And don't forget to mention any other symptoms you might be experiencing.
Oh.
Even if they seem totally unrelated.
Like what?
Things like shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea, sweating, or even pain that spreads to your arms, back, or jaw.
Okay, so all those things, even if they don't seem like they're connected to the chest pain.
Right, because they could be.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's like we're putting together a puzzle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All these little pieces of information could be clues.
And speaking of clues, it can also be helpful to have a list of any medications you're taking, both prescription and over the counter,
Oh, right.
as well as any supplements or herbal remedies you might be using.
Because those could interact with each other.
They can, and some of them can actually cause chest pain themselves.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's important to be aware of that.
Okay, so medications, supplements, those are important too.
Oh.
Anything else?
Oh, and don't forget to mention any relevant medical history,
Oh.
both your own and your family's. So, for example, if you have a family history of heart disease or any other conditions that could be contributing to your chest pain, make sure your doctor knows about that.
Okay, so family history. Got it.
Hmm.
Man, this is good stuff. I'm actually feeling a lot better about going to the doctor now.
I'm glad. Being prepared can make a big difference.
It really can. But what happens if, even after all that, they can't figure out what's causing the chest pain?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. Chest pain can be a tricky thing.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a bit of detective work to really get to the bottom of it. So your doctor might recommend some additional tests.
Okay, like what?
Things like an electrocardiogram, which is also called an ECG, to check your heart's electrical activity,
Okay.
or a chest x-ray to look at your lungs and heart,
Okay.
and maybe even some blood tests to rule out certain conditions.
Wow, so they've got a whole arsenal of tools at their disposal.
They do. And remember, even if the doctor doesn't find anything serious, that doesn't mean that your chest pain isn't real or that you shouldn't take it seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
They might suggest some lifestyle changes, like stress management techniques, dietary modifications, or even exercises to help strengthen your chest muscles.
So it's not always a quick fix.
Not always, no.
Okay.
But even if it's not a heart attack or something super serious, if it's affecting your life, you deserve to find some relief.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes just knowing that there's not some big underlying medical condition, that in itself can be like such a relief.
It can. It can definitely help reduce that anxiety that often comes along with chest pain.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've talked about what causes chest pain, when to seek emergency care, how to prepare for a doctor's visit, and now I want to circle back to that symptom journal you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
What exactly should we be tracking?
So honestly, this is where your own curiosity and self-awareness come into play.
Okay.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach, but I can give you some ideas to get started.
Please, I'm ready to become a chest pain detective.
All right, I love it. So first, think about the timing of the pain. When does it occur? Is it related to meals, specific activities, certain times of day? And jot down the date, time, and duration of each episode.
Okay, date, time, duration, check.
Perfect. Next, describe the pain in detail. Use vivid language like sharp, stabbing, burning, aching, squeezing, tight. The more descriptive you are, the better.
Okay, so like really tap into my inner Shakespeare here. Get descriptive.
Exactly. And then make a note of where the pain is located. Is it centered? Does it radiate? Be specific.
All right, building my chest pain vocabulary.
Exactly. And remember those other symptoms we talked about, like shortness of breath, dizziness, nausea? Track those too. They might seem unrelated, but they could be connected.
Okay, so everything's connected, like a big web.
Exactly. And here's another clue. Pay attention to what you're eating and drinking. Does your chest pain tend to flare up after certain foods or beverages?
Like, going back to that latte.
Exactly. It could be caffeine, could be something else. Keep a food diary along with your symptom journal, and you might start to notice some patterns.
This is getting pretty detailed, but I can see how it would be really helpful.
It can. And lastly, don't underestimate the power of tracking your stress levels. Remember, stress can be a big trigger for chest pain.
It can.
So jot down any stressful events or situations that coincide with your episodes.
So I'm basically creating my own little chest pain investigation file here.
You got it. And the more data you collect, the better you'll be able to talk to your doctor and advocate for yourself.
This is fantastic. I have to say, coming into this, I was feeling a little intimidated by this whole chest pain thing.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually feeling empowered. Like, I have some tools I can use
That's awesome.
and actually figure out what's going on.
I love that. And remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand our bodies, the better we can care for them.
So true.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, you keep mentioning listening to your body. What does that actually mean? Like, how do you actually do that?
You know, that's such a great question.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's something we could probably spend a whole other deep dive exploring.
Right.
But for now, I'll just say that it's about paying attention to those signals that your body sends you, both the subtle ones and the more obvious ones. So noticing how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, and being attuned to any changes or patterns.
So it's not just about like waiting for the alarm bells to go off. It's about noticing those little whispers too.
Exactly. And it's about trusting your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Talk to your doctor, get a second opinion, do some research, whatever you need to do to advocate for your own well-being.
This has been so insightful. Thank you so much for walking us through all of this. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we sign off?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say this. Chest pain can be scary, but it doesn't have to control your life. The more you understand about the causes, the symptoms, and the treatment options, the more you can take charge of your health.
Yes. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Sounds good.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon with another fascinating topic to explore. Until then, stay curious, stay well. Man, we've covered so much ground today.
We have. It's amazing what a little curiosity can lead to.
Seriously. You came in with some material, you wanted to learn more about chest pain,
Yeah.
and look at us now.
It's pretty impressive, right? And I think this topic, especially learning about it,
Oh, yeah.
can make a huge difference.
It's like what we've been saying all along.
Yeah,
Knowledge is power.
it really is, especially when it comes to our health.
Absolutely. So on that note, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Of course, happy to be here.
I think our listeners have definitely learned a lot today.
I hope so.
Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Just remember that chest pain can be scary, but it doesn't have to control your life. The more you know, the more you can take charge of your health and well-being.
So well said. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of chest pain.
It's been a journey.
It has. We hope you found it informative and empowering, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Keep learning, keep asking questions.
Yeah. And most importantly, keep listening to your body.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, stay curious and stay well.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Health Insights. We hope this conversation about chest pain has provided you with valuable knowledge and reassurance. Remember, understanding your body's signals is the first step toward better health. If you or someone you know experiences chest pain, don't ignore it. Act. Whether it's seeking medical attention or adopting lifestyle changes, every step counts. Stay informed, take care of yourself, and always trust your instincts. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who might benefit from it. Don't forget to subscribe for more discussions on health and wellness. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.